He was a well-known football player at the University of South Carolina. Now, Fran Person is a congressional candidate. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with him one-on-one.
Fran,
Yeah,
it's so good to see you.
good to see you too.
I appreciate this.
Good to be down here in Charleston.
Oh, yes, indeed. In fact, you just, if I'm correct, you just left one fundraising event with
Yes.
the Second Lady of the United States.
Yeah, Second Lady Jill Biden.
That's right.
Incredible woman.
Yes, indeed.
You know, to be honest with you, a lot of people don't realize that she's the first one ever to be in that position to be a full-time teacher.
Yes.
We had to pick Wednesday for her to come down here
Right.
because she's a full-time teacher on Tuesday and Thursday. She had a whole packet of stack of papers that she was grading. She teaches English as a second language to a lot of adults at Northern Virginia Community College.
That's right.
You know, she's an incredible person.
Yes.
Somebody that I was blessed to be able to know so well.
Exactly. And let me turn to something that is everyone's talking about right now.
Yeah.
And that is the first presidential debate.
Yeah.
As you know, it lasted for 90 minutes on Monday between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And it got a lot of mixed reviews. And I'm wondering, when you watched that particular debate, that rather it is on Monday, what was your state of mind?
Well, in some ways, watching it, I think like a lot of other folks that watched it, didn't seem like Donald Trump was as prepared as he should have been for the debate. It seemed like Hillary Clinton was able to rattle him a little bit. But to be honest with you, I'm more focused on my race,
Right.
the 5th Congressional District. What I see as I go around, whether I'm talking to Democrats or Republicans, you get the same frustration, rooted in the same, coming actually from the same place. We all, at the end of the day, come from the same, the frustration comes from the same place. We all want the same thing, right? We all want to live in peace.
Okay.
We're not afraid of work, but you need access to a good, decent paying job,
Okay.
right? We want to live in a safe neighborhood, send our kids to good schools, give them a better life than we had. But for so long in Washington, you see it pour over to our presidential politics. Everything is, Democrat versus Republican, everything is fighting. There's so much divisiveness. When at the end of the day, people are just sitting back saying, hey, look, I want real leaders to go up there that can work across the house, actually get things done, that are actually going to listen to them, be in the communities, That's what they're looking for.
And what are you listening to? Because I know you went to Gaffney, Rock Hill, Newberry. What are people telling you?
Yeah, look, I have a very big district, 11 counties
Right.
involved. The little sliver, Spartanburg,
Right.
you have, all of Cherokee County,
yeah.
all of York, all
Right.
of Lancaster, all the way down to Sumter,
Right.
all the way over to Newberry and everything in between.
Yes.
And whether you're York and Lancaster in the suburbs kind of Charlotte, or whether you're in Lee County, or whether you're down in Sumter County, where Shaw Air Force Base
Right.
and the 3rd Army, heavily military and veteran. There's a lot of different folks. And like I said, it doesn't really matter who I'm talking about, or talking to, Republican, Democrat. There is the same root of frustration. A frustration with politics is that all they see is people trying to score political points, and everybody's talking past each other. Everybody's fighting, and actually nothing's getting done. So it actually boils down to some simple stuff. People just want, they want somebody that's going to come in and listen to them.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your trip with Vice President Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That made a lot of headlines. And I'm wondering, when you toured with him around many of those particular events, where were you emotionally?
It meant a lot to have Vice President Biden come down for me. He's become like another father to me. I first met him, I had played football at the University of South Carolina. Yeah, it was Gamecock, go Gamecocks.
Yes.
But I was an international studies major, political science major. And then Senator Biden came and spoke in our classroom. Don Fowler was my teacher.
Yes.
Anybody who goes to
Right.
Wofford or University of South Carolina has probably taken Don Fowler at one point.
He's a political powerhouse.
Yeah, well, I went down and introduced myself to him. I was still in my senior year.
Yes.
And he asked me what I was going to do when I was done. I just told him I was going pro in something other than football. I was good, but I knew I wasn't going to be playing on
Right.
Sundays. So that's what I did. We played in the Independence Bowl my senior year, and afterwards I went up to work for him. I was his driver, his personal aide, and again, he became like another father to me. He took me everywhere he went, all around the country, all around the world. He exposed me to a lot of things.
Yes.
But also, it's a lot more. He's a guy who built a career off of building relationships across the aisle and actually
Right.
getting things done.
Right.
Whether it was Fritz Hollings in this state or Strom Thurmond. A lot of people forget it was Strom Thurmond, the relationship they had. He did Strom Thurmond's eulogy. It represented a different time.
Yeah.
When people would disagree, they would fight like hell on the floor of the House, but then
Right.
at the same time they would sit down, they knew each other, they had relationships, they would figure out what they couldn't work together on, put it aside, figure out what they could, and they would move forward on it. But a lot more than just that. He taught me it was about relationships. Being elected official is not about you, it's about the people you serve. But also some of the more personal things. He taught me how to be a better father. He taught me how to be a better husband. He's a good man. And for him to be able to come down in district with me, I couldn't be more proud. And to be going through on a different side. It was pretty neat. And it was really cool when we went into Rock Hill.
Right.
We went to, the Five and Dine, which
Right.
is the old McCory's.
Right.
You know, where the Friendship Nine did their famous sit-in back in 1961, the first, jail no bail. We had a guy, Dub Massey, one of the original Friendship Nine, was right there, and I mean, we sat down and Jake talked, and got around. There's a lot of people in there, and it was neat.
Yes.
It was a real good feel.
And from what I understand, he says that people trust in you. When you hear that, what goes through your mind?
Well, I appreciate it, but you just gotta give people, never give people a reason not to trust you, right?
Yes.
I mean, I am, take me for what I'm worth, I'm a man of my word.
Yes.
And, what I say I'm gonna do, I try to do it.
Yes.
Try to keep my word, and, again, I really do value relationships,
Yes.
value people, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yes.
And that's what people want in their politics.
Of course.
They want somebody that they can see, that they can touch, they can feel, they can talk to about their problems, and they're going to call back, and they're going to follow up. I mean, being a congressman isn't about sitting up in Washington and legislating bills. It's only part of the problem. I mean, part of the job.
Sure.
The real job is being in the communities, being connected with the churches, being connected, bringing people together, whether it's your local elected officials, whether it's the business community, whether it's the school board or the PTA or the teachers, bringing everybody together. There isn't an issue we can't solve as long as we're all communicating and talking and on the same page. I mean, everybody's pulling their part, right? That's what I learned playing ball.
Right.
I mean, that's what Lou Holtz and Coach Berger
Yes.
had taught. You all got to pull your own weight, right?
Yes.
And nobody's bigger than the team.
That's true.
Yeah.
Let me turn to issues. Veterans. You said this on September 14th, after the Rock Hill event, that is. You said, quote, "When our veterans come home, it's our responsibility to make sure they have access to quality education." So what's a quality education in your mind?
Quality education, to be honest with you, all of the jobs of the future, you have this exponential growth in technology.
Right.
All of the jobs of the future are going to require, lifelong education. It's not just about early childhood education, which we need.
Right.
All the tests prove that, you have the higher success rate. We need good, middle schools, grade schools, high schools. But then it's also about a lifelong education. We kind of constantly upskill our workforce. Let me tell you a little bit about our you're talking about the veterans.
Right.
And one, let me take a step back.
Sure.
We have a lot of obligations as a country, but the one truly sacred obligation that we have is to take care of the folks, give them every resource they need to equip them when they go overseas, go into fight a war, and then take care of them when they come home.
Yes, indeed.
But then at the same time, it's the same thing our veterans see as they come home as ever, whether you're a student, you just graduated and you're trying to enter the workforce, whether you lost your job, that industry went away, whether you're trying to transition into a new job. In my district, there's 700,000 residents.
Right.
There's 75,000 residents who are high school dropouts. Another 150,000 that only have a high school degree. There's 73,000 families of four that live below the poverty line, $25,000 a year. This is about jobs. It's about bringing jobs here. We just lost Dorcel up in Lancaster County. Lost Caterpillar in Newberry.
Right.
We need to bring jobs, but then we need to make sure our workforce has the skills they need to compete for those jobs. That's the measure of what we need. And there's not a Democrat-Republican solution. It's about putting hard-working folks, I believe, inside of everybody. Everybody has something inside them. We're all built to compete.
Yes, indeed.
But you need the skills, and you need the opportunity, and that's all folks need.
Absolutely. Describe to me the following one word: farmers.
Farmers, some of the most hardworking people I've ever met. When we're down in Sumter, whether I'm visiting the farmers down there, look, a lot of our farms too, it's a way of life. These are generational farmers. They pass down farms from family to family. They work very, very hard. And there's not huge profit margins, and they actually there's a lot of expenses. There's a lot of equipment that costs a lot of money.
Right.
And these are folks that a lot of people forget. They're involved in our lives every day.
Sure.
I eat 3 squares, man.
Right, yeah.
At least I try to
Right.
these days.
Tomatoes, and all that stuff.
When I was playing ball and I was 300 pounds, I
Right.
ate 6 squares.
Wow.
I really love the farmers.
Yes.
But then when we had a flood come through like we did, a
Yeah.
1,000-year flood,
Right.
it wiped out a whole crop. There was like $375 million lost in crop loss.
Wow.
That's the problem in some ways that I have with the current congressman. And some of our other, congressmen in our delegation voted against the emergency funding. You know, how are farmers supposed to compete if they don't have those resources? They can't get by on the insurance they have. It doesn't cover everything. They obviously don't understand the way farm insurance works. But farmers are the lifeblood. I mean, it's the #1 industry in South Carolina,
Sure.
right? And we tend to forget that sometimes.
Wow.
But for farmers, in some ways, you know, as far as the federal government is concerned, we need to put them in a better position where they can compete.
Yes. Social Security and Medicaid. Medicare, I should say.
Sure.
What describe to me that in one word, Social Security and Medicare.
Social Security, look, protecting our seniors, and then, you know, these are folks that have worked their whole entire life with a bargain that when they retire, there's going to be benefits there for them. Especially Medicare. For a lot of our seniors, it needs to be there when they retire, when they leave. I have a brother-in-law also who lives with me. He's on Medicare.
Wow.
He has MS. He's 40 years old. He had to go on disability about, you know, a couple years back. You know, when he got his disability check, because we did not expand the Medicaid expansion,
Okay.
he got a disability check of like $940 a month. He went to the Medicaid office and said, hey, look, you know what? You don't qualify for Medicaid. You make $40 too much. No, $940 a month. So then he calls back the disability office and says, hey, you know, can you pay me $40? Like, that's not the way it works. You know, so he would have been left sitting there. I mean, he has family. He had to make a choice between, hey, do I get the health care coverage? You know, do I get the drugs I need to pay for me, or do I, you know, pay my rent or pay my car? You know, these are things that need to be there for folks that need it the most.
Yes, indeed. National defense.
Oh, for me, I would want to sit on the Armed Services Committee. It's one of those committees, you know, and I come from a point of personal privilege. I have 4 brothers and 2 sister-in-laws, all went to the Naval Academy.
Right.
You know, I had the privilege of traveling the world with Vice President Biden. You know, and I don't want to make a distinction as if I served in the military, but I got to see firsthand when we would make our trips to Iraq and Afghanistan, the service and sacrifice our men and women in uniform are making. It is our obligation to give them all the resources they need.
Sure.
These sequester cuts, which the congressman I'm running against has supported to protect these cuts, they have decimated our national defense, decimated our military. To keep up with these cuts, they have to downsize our military. I'll bring it very local. You go to Shaw Air Force Base,
Right.
where the 3rd Army is located. 3rd Army is about almost half the size it was when they first got there. You know, they've shut down weapons systems. They've taken weapons systems. They've taken about every asset they can away from the National Guard. The next step to keep up with these cuts, and they're talking about the Pentagon, they're talking about the halls of Congress, about base realignment. You know, what bracking means, especially bracking to everybody, well, you don't hear bracking every day, but you live in Sumter, it means something.
Right.
If they're going to consolidate 20% of the bases, if Shaw Air Force Base was to leave Sumter, that's over $1 billion economic impact for that whole area.
Right.
It'd be like a ghost town.
Right.
It's not just the men and women in uniform. It's all, you know, it's everybody that benefits off that base.
Yes.
The entire local economy.
Yeah.
So for me, it's very important.
Yes.
You know, and I take it back to what I said earlier.
Right.
It's the one truly sacred obligation we have, is we have the finest fighting force in the history of the world. But we need to give them all the resources they need to meet the challenges and to complete the missions of today and to meet the challenges of the future. And then we need to take care of them when they come home. Because you mentioned veterans.
Right.
To be honest with you, we have a lot of these veterans that are coming just from Iraq and Afghanistan. We're coming back with 1 leg missing, maybe 2 legs missing, an arm missing. These are folks, major burn victims. These are folks that would have died in Vietnam, would have died in earlier conflicts. But because of advancements in triage and medical care, they're coming home. And they're going to live to their 60, 70, 80, 90, God love them, 100 years. Yeah. And they're going to require a certain level of care. And I'll be darned, after every street's named, that they're not going to see that. Yes. And then there's also the unseen wounds, the mental health issues. Right. There's more people who have died from suicide than have died actually in combat in Afghanistan and Iraq. You know, it is a big issue.
Yes, indeed.
And then in our VA, you have backlight. Somebody tries to go get an appointment. Hey, I got a mental health issue. I call about a mental health. Hey, you can get an appointment in 3 months. I need that appointment now. Yeah. I mean, it's something that we really, really need to tackle. Yeah. And that's really important today.
Exactly. Another issue is Keith Scott.
Sure.
You know, the man who was involved with the police-involved shooting in Charlotte?
Yeah.
Talk to me about your emotions when you think about it.
Are you talking about Keith, my apologies, are you talking about Keith Scott, or are you talking about the whole entire issue in Charlotte?
You sure? You're welcome to do that.
Yeah, sure. Look, for me, I think in this country, to be honest with you, we talk past each other a lot. You know, we like to talk about all lives matter. And I do believe all lives matter in the eyes of God. For real. And I don't mean to be, you know, I'm probably not going to use the best words or articulate this the best, but I'll tell you exactly how I feel.
Okay.
You know, all lives do matter in the face of God. But then when you come down on earth in reality, how can we say all lives matter when our prisons are packed with African American men? When the unemployment rate is a lot higher with African Americans? You know, look, it's not just African American. I mean, there's so much more. How about women? Up until recently, being a woman was a pre-existing condition. Women don't get paid equally as men. You know, women in the workforce. My wife's pregnant. She's due in February. You know, she should have access to 12 weeks paid maternity leave so that she can keep her place in the workforce. You know, what about Hispanics? The civil rights movement wasn't just about African Americans and whites. It's about anybody who feels like the deck is stacked against them. And for me, that's who I'm fighting for.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it goes back to what I was saying before. There's a whole lot of our hard-working families that are falling behind and that are barely making it. They feel like there used to be a basic bargain in this country. That if I work hard, play by the rules, I can get ahead. And that bargain is broken for a whole lot of folks, especially for folks in the African American community.
Yes, indeed. Let me turn to just family for a second. You just mentioned your wife, who's pregnant. If you could describe her, what one word would you use?
My wife is my hero.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, my wife, you know, she's not just works full time. She takes care of our two kids. I
Right.
respect them. She's my camp. She's always giving me advice on the
Right.
campaign. Hey, did you see the Rock Hill Herald? You know, there's that article in there about 12 weeks by maternity.
Right.
You know, but she's also, she grew up in Columbia.
Yes.
You know, she went to Richmond Northeast. She went to Wofford. Her mom was a full-time, you know, elementary secretary and elementary school secretary. My wife's the first one in her family ever to go to college. She got straight A's in high school. She got a Bonner scholarship. She got full Pell Grant. You know, she took out credit cards, student loans, you know, all to get her to go to college. You know, we're still paying off those credit cards and student loans, but
Sure.
I mean, for me, she's overcome so much. She's the brightest person I know. She's stronger than me. She's smarter than me. You know, she in a lot of ways is my hero. And I don't mean that seriously.
Right.
I mean, she is, you know, she's the best thing that ever happened to me.
And finally, one word to describe Franny.
Me?
Yes, sir.
I'll tell you what. You send me to Congress, I'll be the hardest working congressman you ever seen.
Wow.
And I understand the value of relationships and you know, building trust with folks. Building trust not just with the people. Again, being a congressman, it's not about you. It's the people you serve and the people you serve with. Those are the relationships you got to build. And it's all about trust. If we had a whole lot more trust, we wouldn't have the same issues that we have in Charlotte, and have the same issues that we have in our entire voter base. People don't trust government. They don't trust law enforcement. They don't trust. They're losing faith. You know, we got to rebuild that faith. And in doing that, we need to have elected officials that are there, that are visible, that people know that, hey, look, this guy, he's got my best interest at hand. And you know, when I need him, if I call him, he's there.
Yes. We understand that. Well, Fran Person, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Yep. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great.